have you heard the term Atmanirbhar Bharat in the past month? How many times have you discussed the term Atmanirbhar Bharat with your friends and family? Have you actually thought about what it really means and how important is Atmanirbhar Bharat for the citizens of India? Good morning, everyone. The topic of today's webinar is Atmanirbhar Bharat, a clarion call for India. Atmanirbhar Bharat, or for our international listeners, Self Reliant India, is the vision of India's Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi and has been proposed in the form of a multi-dimensional policy. Today we have with us a prominent and dynamic speaker, Dr. Ashwini Mahajan. He is National Co-Convener of Swadeshi Jagran Manch and an Associate Professor of Economics from Delhi University. He has also attached a lot of laurels to his hat. To name a few, he is an author, columnist, policy interventionist, and chief editor of Journal of Contemporary Indian Polity. On behalf of the management of Parul University, we welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Ami. Thank you, Parul University, for having invited me for this lecture on this very useful and very timely issue. We understand India has been termed as a golden bird of the world. We know that there has never been any sourcing of gold from within the country because we don't have many mines mining gold. We have one Kolar mine, but that itself is not giving us the gold which we have. In fact, even today in our households, even after the looting of gold from us by various attackers to India, and then legally also they took away so much of gold from us. The Britishers. Even then, we have so much of gold with us, with our households, with our temples, that the rest of the world doesn't have that much of gold. So, how come this gold has come to us? That is very important. This gold has come to us because we had not only been Atmanirbhar, self-reliant. In fact, we were exporting to the whole world. And when our traders used to go there, selling their goods in Europe and other places, and they the traders over there would definitely say, okay, you take something from us. But our traders used to say, what can we take from you? Because we have everything. We are self-reliant and we are efficient. We are producing the best of the world in our country. How can we take anything from you? So then they had no option except to offer gold. And that's the reason why gold kept on. And in our households, we have so much of gold. And if you look at the GDP, the economic historians say, and they say it very correctly, and this is not only Indian economic historians, the economic historians of the world, they keep saying that India was giving 33% of the GDP of the globe. And even during the before the Britishers came here, even then at that point of time, 25% of the GDP of the globe was coming from us.
Okay.
So this Atmanirbharta or self-reliance is nothing new for us. The only thing is that now we are making a big effort to be self-reliant once again. So
Yes.
this is the point which we are discussing, that we are going to become self-reliant again. It's not that this effort was not made earlier. Even when Nehruji took over as Prime Minister of India, he said we are so much dependent on foreign countries. We for all sorts of manufactured goods, and therefore we need to be self-reliant. But unfortunately, the path he took for self-reliance was not conducive to the real self-reliance of the country, and that's the reason why, uh, despite 73 years, even after the 73 years of independence, we are still talking about becoming Atmanirbhar. So this is very important to understand the history of it. And before you see, you you have mentioned my association with the Swadeshi Jagran Manch, and in fact, I would like to, in this speech of mine, I would like to really clear the air also about what Swadeshi actually means, because generally people say that Swadeshi means going backward, and things like that. So when we achieved independence, Nehruji thought that we should be self-reliant, but the path he took was that of overemphasis on public sector, and overemphasis on controls and command, and humans humans are don't work most efficiently when they are controlled and commanded. uh, if you allow the birds to fly free, they will do better. If you allow people to function free, they will do better. They can achieve better results. And India is known for its entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is nothing new in India, and we know today's, if you make a list of the today's billionaires, you will find 25% of the billionaires today, they are first generation billionaires. So that means if we allow them to fly free, they will fly, they will reach heights. So but that, unfortunately, the government of that time, they never trusted the Indian youth. They never trusted the Indian entrepreneurship. They said, country is poor, country uh, is not industrialized, country needs to industrialize, we need more industries. So let us now start some basic industries and some commanding heights. And these commanding heights should be in the hands of the government, because government will decide what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. So it's everything should be controlled and commanded. And he was too much guided by the Russian Stalin's model of development. He said that yes, we can develop if we keep everything in control of the public sector. Yes, private sector can also operate, he said, but private sector can operate only after obtaining license. Many of you must have seen a movie, a film, Guru. If you remember, there was a case against the hero, uh, uh, Guru. Some people say that
Yes.
this movie is based on the life experience of Dhirubhai Ambani, and the case was very funny case, that this guy was given a license for one machine, and he established 7 machines. How come it possible? You are producing more than what you have been asked for. So therefore you should be punished. You should be punished with penalty. You should be punished with the jail term. And this is not just the picturization. Actually, this was the case. And this Industries Development and Regulation Act of 1951 says that you can start factories, you can do something, but only after obtaining license. And if you have obtained license, then for raw material, you are dependent on the country because everything is scarce. You remember those days, everything was scarce.
Yes,
If
yes,
you
sir.
wanted, to purchase a scooter, you will have to wait for 15 years.
Mm.
If you want,
Yes.
if you want a telephone connection, you may have to wait for 20 years. If you want, if you are purchasing a car, yes, again you will have to wait. But many people are not purchasing cars because cars are being produced and you will get it in 3, 4, 5, 6 months. But no new models will be there. The same old model of Ambassador, which was there in 1951, kept on going till 1988,
Yes.
90. So you never allowed the entrepreneurs to fly. You never allowed them. You never trusted them that they can do something, and that's the reason why, because of that self-reliant model of Nehru, we could not become self-reliant.
Okay.
And because the whole world was progressing, they were they were uh, going into new directions. They were going into new industrial revolutions. Everybody knows that we missed the first industrial revolution because we were subjugated, we were under the alien rule. But we missed the second industrial revolution also. We missed the third industrial revolution also, for the simple reason that we never allowed our youth to function freely. We never uh, showed any trust in our people that they can also do something. They can also do something. So so this is the point where I'm starting, that in 91 they said, oh, that model has failed. That model of control and commands, that model of uh, public sector is failed. Now we'll have to become self-reliant again. So how come? This time the self-reliance will come from MNCs, FDI. Again, we didn't show any trust, any confidence in our youth that they can also do something. They trusted in MNCs, they trusted in FDI. And all of you remember the 91, because I'm a critique of, as Swadeshi Jagat Manch, I'm critique of Nehru, and I'm critique of 1991 new economic policy, which they say liberalization, privatization, and globalization. I'm sorry if I'm hurting anybody's sentiments by criticizing LPG, but I'll conclude. Then you when I conclude, you'll be able to appreciate that yes, there is some truth in my saying.
Okay.
Okay,
Sure.
so LPG liberalization is a very good word, because everything was controlled, because everything was commanded. So it was a control and command economy. It was all the model which we adopted, the central planning, was a model of Russia. And anybody wanted to, as I have mentioned, the case of Dhirubhai Ambani, that he was asked to stop all those factories because he was doing more than what was asked for. So they said no, we should liberalize. Licensing should go, quota should go, and this license quota regime should go, and this is liberalization. But actually, liberalization didn't happen, because that liberalization was only for a chosen few.
Yes.
But that liberalization didn't work for small. I wrote a book sometime back, the SSIs in the web of loss. People used to say that there are 53 inspectors coming to everybody's factories. But I counted, there were 57 actually. There were 57 inspectors coming, and even today, there are 320 forms which every small scale entrepreneur has to fill every year. There are 47 acts which are applicable on them.
Oh, that's
And
interesting.
how can they survive with so much of, they are strangulated by these laws? I'm not just talking of labor laws. I may be in favor of some labor laws for the protection and the welfare of labor, but I'm talking of other kinds of laws. आपकी दुकान की पुताई हो रही है कि नहीं हो रही, आपकी फैक्ट्री में चिमनी लगी हुई है कि नहीं लगी. These days factories don't require chimneys. Again, you are under this law. You have to put chimney, otherwise inspector will come and fine you. And so many inspectors used to come. Some of them they were census inspectors, but the name inspector is there, so they will come and collect some money from the entrepreneur. So you, instead of, if you look at China, if you look at other countries, they will welcome entrepreneurs. So they will say, okay, you will give you free land, we'll give you free machinery, we'll give you this much of subsidy, you will get this much of facility, electricity will be free, people will come and purchase from you. You don't have to even bother for marketing, but you come and establish factories so that you can employ people. But here, oh, how come you are going to establish a factory? You will have to get this license, that license. So many inspectors will visit you. These are the forms which you have to fill. In case you fail to do that, you will be fined,
Yes.
and fined heavily. You may be even jailed. So, if that is the kind of environment in which we are living, so liberalization was only for the name. If I calculate, if I see the number of inspectors visiting a factory, they remains the same. If I look at the laws which are applicable on you, they remain the same. In the past 6 years, something has happened. That is the reason why we have moved up from 142nd position to 63rd position in ease of doing business. Something has happened, but not all. So liberalization. I'm giving you the description of liberalization. Then privatization. They said we need to privatize everything. So what to privatize? All the public sector enterprises which were established earlier will be privatized. We said, okay, you can privatize, but sell them through equity route so that they fetch the right market price. Don't sell them in the through strategic route. You know, though I come from Swadeshi Jagamanch and we are associated with RSS, and Atalji's government was there, and they started with doing this business of selling public sector enterprises through strategic route. They did it in case of the modern bread, modern bakery, and then they did it for some hotels. And we said, no, this is wrong. Because if you bring people from outside or say, okay, you purchase it from us, this man will purchase, that man will purchase, you will not fetch the right price. However honest a government is, Atalji's honesty nobody can question. But the process is not right. So privatization is a good thing, but only if it is through equity route. So when this government tried to sell Air India, again we said Air India's sale is good, but only through equity route, so that you make Air India more efficient and working. Anyway, that I'm not saying anything on that, but why to sell off? Why to sell off well-run public sector enterprises when they're doing well? What we require is that you make them function. We are not in favor of public sector, because I've just said that we did a wrong thing by giving maximum emphasis on the to the public sector. Now, after 91, one thing liberalization, second is privatization. So emphasis was given to have more and more private enterprises. After lifting of license quota regime, more people will come. But we trusted only the FDI. We said, oh, FDI will come because we have less resources. FDI will come and they will develop us. Have you ever seen any country developing on the basis of the foreign resources?
No.
So foreign resources can only supplement your domestic resources, but they can't be the primary engine of growth. And therefore, you have to depend upon your people, your people's excellence, your people's efficiencies, your people, what you call the intellect and the entrepreneurship skills. And Indians are very good at that. If you see, their brains, they are wonderful. If you go to Europe, I had been to London and Paris. Both places, I try to ask people the can if they can guide me in roads and how can I go from one place to another. If you ask them, they are unable to guide you. They will always see the map, and then they say, okay, you are here, you will go there, you will go there, and in and they may not be able to explain to you even in 10 minutes. If you ask a guy there who is Indian, I happen to be the witness to that. I asked him, I have to go this place. Oh yeah, you. I asked him, are you Desi? He said, okay, Desi, yes. So you take this bus. Next stop, you get down. There will be a tube station. You take this tube to that station, and you will reach there. So he explained it in just 10 seconds. Just 10 seconds. How? Because our brains are so sharp. That's the reason why we do the best of the things in the world, which is the topmost technology today. It is space technology. We are so good in space technology that we manufactured, we made our own PSLV. When other countries were showing some reluctance to us, we developed our own PSLV, and we used to tell US, okay, you take this satellite of ours to the orbit and establish it. So they used to say, okay, we will charge this much amount here or this that. We did it for the whole world, not one satellite, not two satellites. We established 104 satellites in one go, and the whole world was astonished. And we did it. And this is these things of most precision. Look at the software technology. Our people are making software for the whole world. Even the hardwares which are being made by these so-called tech companies, all softwares of those hardwares are made by Indians. Indian doctors, they're doing wonders. Indian scientists in NASA, they are doing wonders. In every sphere of life, Indians are doing good. Why it is so? Because we Indians have a DNA over the centuries and hundreds of centuries consuming food which is produced in India.
Yes.
And कहते हैं कि ये जो हिमालय पर्वत है ना, हिमालय पर्वत से जितनी नदियां निकलती हैं, उन नदियों का एक बूंद पानी भी हिमालय पर्वत किसी और देश को देना नहीं चाहता. Himalaya is dividing the India and China. Only one river is going through China, but it again comes to India. So Himalayas don't want to give any benefit to any other country. This is the gift of the God to India, and all these rivers जो अपने साथ जो मृदा लाती हैं ना, जो मिट्टी लाती हैं, उसके कारण ये जो हमारा सबसे बड़ा डेल्टा है, दुनिया में ऐसा डेल्टा नहीं है.
Yes.
और अगर आप इसमें खोदते चले जाएं, मीलों तक आपको मिट्टी मिलती है. And that's the strength of India, which makes us so intelligent, so sharp. Our youth is, and we have wasted them. We have wasted them. मैं 91 के ग्लोबलाइजेशन की कहानी आपको सुनाता हूँ. So in I have explained to you the liberalization, privatization, and I'm talking about the globalization.
Yes, sir.
You see, globalization was never thought about in India. You give me any discussion, any conference which was held between 1980 and 1990 that India wants to go on this path of globalization and we have to adopt these measures and we have to adopt these policies. Nothing was discussed. So it was imposed upon us. Those who are interested, who are listening to me, those who are interested, can Google 2 words, Washington Consensus, and they will read about everything of globalization. Everything about globalization. Because these developed countries thought that India and other developing countries, they are not listening to us. Since they are now independent, they are sovereign nations, they are not listening to us. They are doing whatever they want. So this has to stop. They will have to follow our path. अगर हमारे देश में अलग अलग तरह की फसलें उगती हैं, we have variety, biodiversity, you know that. But you should produce only limited number of products. We tell you, okay, we are not listening to you. No problems. We'll make you listen. This is what they did. They said, you are too much protective about your industry. You have to stop that. You have to open your markets. Oh, we are not ready to open. Then face the music. So they got into our policy making in such a way that ultimately in 91 the situation was created that we didn't have sufficient foreign exchange reserves to even pay for 2 weeks of imports.
Yes.
And you remember, if people remember, that we had to transport a lot of gold from India, which I was mentioning, to Bank of England, make them sure that, okay, we will not default in our sovereign debt repayment. And a situation was created that you will have to follow this. And we were forced to open our markets for foreign goods. We were forced to open our country for foreign capital. So it was by compulsion that it was done. It was not by choice of this country. I stand by what I say. So we were forced to adopt globalization, and somebody, if he wants to, and there is nothing secret about it. Washington Consensus is known to everybody. And what was this consensus? This was a set of 10 policies you have to do. Amongst whom that consensus was, that is very important and very interesting. It seems that Washington Consensus means that all the countries must have gathered together in Washington and they must have reached at a consensus. No, it was not. It was a consensus between the 3 institutions. One institution is World Bank, second IMF, and third is US Treasury Department. It's mentioned there. So this was a consensus that from now onwards, you have to open your markets. You have to open your economy for foreign capital. You have to change your foreign exchange determination rules. You have to change your budgets rules. You have to change your IPR rules. You have to change this. You have to change that. 10 points have been mentioned. And then started the process of establishing the WTO. There was a uh, there was a you know you remember there was an institution, or rather a platform called GATT, General Agreement on
Yes.
Trade and Tariff.
Yes.
Countries used to gather there and decide about the future course of foreign trade, how to operate foreign trade. टैरिफ्स घटाने हैं, बढ़ाने हैं, नॉन टैरिफ बैरियर्स की बात है. So the basic idea was that trade should be free. There is no doubt. If you have free trade and fair trade, the whole world will benefit. Because if I am able to produce something more efficiently, better things, obviously others are also able to produce some other goods in a more efficient manner, better types of goods. So if we exchange those goods, I will get more goods, you will get more goods. So everybody will be better off. So free trade is a good thing. But forced free trade and then bringing in unfairness is bad. So WTO was tried to be, at that time, and they said you will have to change your mindset. Now you will have to sign WTO. In GATT, everything was, non-binding. Whatever you had promised there in GATT, if you come back home, say if people and industry is not ready to do that, okay, we can change it. So we'll inform GATT that okay, we had said this, but we don't agree with this now. We will be continuing with our higher tariffs on this commodity. But WTO was a binding. When you signed WTO, once you had said okay, you will reduce tariffs, that is binding. Once you say that you have removed non-tariff barriers, it is binding. And we removed all sorts of non-tariff barriers. Tariffs were reduced to a very, very low level. This is what has happened after WTO. Even then, India was doing okay. In 2001, one accident happened. Nobody noticed that accident, and that accident was that China took the membership of WTO. China was not even a member of GATT. GATT established in 1946. China didn't become member. 1987, Uruguay rounds of negotiation started. China never participated. In 1995, 1st January, WTO came into being. China was not a member. After 51 years of the WTO, or 50 years of WTO, in 2001, 55 years of WTO, in 2001, China said, I want to become member. The whole world was happy. Okay, such a big country with big market is trying to enter WTO. We will be able to sell more goods in China. But China by then had the hashtag conspiracy. Okay, we will become member of WTO, and then what we will do, the world will see. And what they did, after becoming member of WTO, they hatched a conspiracy that from now onwards we'll try to capture the whole world market. And by fair trade, you cannot do that, because others are also efficient. They are into manufacturing from the very beginning. How can you compete with them? Okay, we'll do that. We have an iron curtain. Whatever we do, nobody knows. Therefore, we will subsidize our exports to such an extent that nobody will be able to compete with us. Interesting. Like you produce a commodity for $100, and that commodity, if you sell for $105 in the world market, nobody will purchase. The manufacturer in China, they cannot sell directly to the world market. They have to first sell their production to the PSUs, public sector undertakings, and then public sector undertakings will sell it around the world. So in the process, what happens? You sell $100 commodity for $101, $2, $5 to PSU, and they will sell for $80 to the rest of the world. So you may ask from where this money will come. Chinese government will give. And in the process, the commodities will become cheaper. And you'll say, oh, हमें तो लूट रहे थे यहाँ वाले लोग, चाइना का माल इतना सस्ता है. And everybody will purchase Chinese goods. So what happened in 2001, between 2001 and 2020, where we are, our trade deficit with China was $0.2 billion, 1/5 of $1 billion. It increased to $63.2 billion in 17-18. You can understand?
Yes.
In 2004, between 2004 and 2014, 10 years, I'm talking of UPA government. I'm coming to that, why it happened. So during UPA government, there was an increase of 3,000% import from China. So what happened because of that? हमारी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग तब भी इतनी बुरी नहीं थी 2001 में भी. But if you sell $100 goods for $80 or for $50 or for $40, whatever price suits, they are ready to sell. If you are ready to purchase for $90, they will sell it for $90. If you are ready for $100, they will sell for $100. If you are ready for $50, they will sell for the same commodity. But their ultimate aim is to capture a market.
Okay.
In 2001, we were producing 90% of our APIs. APIs are the raw materials for the pharmaceutical industry.
Okay.
90% of the API, this is on record. I'm not saying anything off the record. So 90% of the APIs we were manufacturing, but China kept on dumping those APIs and made us dependent on China to such an extent. Today, we are producing only 10% APIs and 90% are coming from outside.
Oh, wow.
You can imagine the kind of dependence of our health sector on China because of this dumping. And nobody looked at it. It is the government which has to see that why it is happening, that my industry is getting closed down. There has to be an alarm bell. If my industry is closing down, what is the reason? Is it the inefficiency of my people, or it is something else? That something else was never investigated into. And it's not just API, electricals, electronics. That was the time when the mobile revolution was taking place. We could have produced mobiles. Can't we produce mobiles? When we can make missiles, when we can make PSLV, when we can do so much of space work.
Yes.
मंगलयान हमने 300 करोड़ रुपए में बना करके कर दिया, आज तक चीन नहीं कर पाया. That doesn't mean that we can't do it. We could have done it, but our government never allowed. The policies were such that we were so much obsessed with the idea of globalization. Oh, globalization बड़ा अच्छा था, फ्री ट्रेड होना चाहिए, लोगों को बड़ा सस्ता सामान मिलता है, चाइना से आ रहा है तो क्या फर्क पड़ता है, लोगों को सस्ता सामान तो मिल रहा है. लेकिन इन द मीनवाइल क्या हुआ? अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट kept on rising. पॉवर्टी, कोई ये जो जितने पॉवर्टी की फिगर्स आपको आती है ना, आई कैन प्रूव देम ऑल रॉन्ग. जो कहते हैं ना कि पॉवर्टी नीचे जा रही है, आंकड़ों का खेल है। आप टेबल पे बैठ के पॉवर्टी को 0 भी कर सकते हो, 80% पे भी ले जा सकते हो। अब एक अर्जुन सेन गुप्ता कमेटी की रिपोर्ट आई थी which said that 80% of the people are living below less than 20 rupees a day. वो क्या गलत थी क्या? लेकिन planning commission kept on fudging the data for reducing the poverty. Anyway, I'm not coming into that, but I'll tell you some figures are very important to understand. Thomas Piketty, have you heard of him? Thomas Piketty is saying that since 1980 till 2014, whatever growth has happened, people say, oh, in the meanwhile we have grown so much. हमारी GDP growth 8%, 9%, 5-6% रह जाती है तो यहाँ बुखार हो जाता लोगों को भी, क्या 5-6% रह गई. But all this growth, 66% of this growth has been captured by top 10% people. 30% of the growth has been captured by top 1% people. When 90% of the people are outside the vicinity of growth, outside the radius of growth, what does that growth means to us? My 90% people are not getting the benefits of growth. If I look at the wages of the people, these are the figures which are published figures by Government of India. Government of India publishes annual survey of industry in which wages are given कि भी ये money wages हैं. So between 1991 and 16-17, money wages increased by 7 times. आपको लगेगा अरे 7 गुना बढ़ गई. But in the meanwhile, price level increased by 6.5 times. So there was a very nominal increase in the real wages. So that's the reason why our laborers were forced to go on foot. 700-800 किलोमीटर की यात्रा करने के लिए विवश हो गए.
Yes, sir.
अगर उनके पास पैसे होते वो तो होंडा कार में जाते. अगर जाना भी था अपने गांव में तो पैदल क्यों जाते?
Yes, sir.
So this is the state of affair for the poor workers. After 30 years of our high fast growth, with the tag of fastest growing economy of the world, my majority workers are going on foot to their villages after just 7 days of lockdown. They could not bear that even. You can understand their condition.
Yes, yes, sir.
So our workers, I'm talking of the farmers and the villagers. CSO has stopped publishing the data on rural incomes. You know that? Why? Because वो data इतना डरावना है कि कोई उसको पढ़ भी ना ले.
Okay.
What is that data? I tell you, I have calculated. The data shows that, and this data is not mine. This is published by NABARD, and I have estimated the incomes on the basis of the census, NABARD figures, and national income figures published by the Government of India. That data shows that per capita income in the rural area is 23,000 rupees.
Okay.
And per capita income in the urban areas is 2,90,000 rupees. 12.3 times.
Yes, sir.
So,
sir, yes.
I am concluding in 2-3 minutes. Now, people are raising questions that we cannot be self-reliant because we are so much dependent on China. मैंने आपको mention किया है our APIs, electronics, telecom, chemicals, steel, metals, cycle, every industry. We are so much dependent on China. We cannot stop. I asked them that when we are producing 90% APIs ourselves, can't we do it now? We can do it. Government has come out with 12,000 crores of rupees of package for upbringing the API sector. Electronics, government has already started 42,000 crores of rupees of package to manufacture mobile phones and electronics telecoms equipments ourselves. Then in the recent past, when people used to say that we can't produce मास्क, फेस मास्क, हमने इतने बना दिए कि वो सारे मैन्युफैक्चरर मेरे पास आके कह रहे हैं कि भैया अश्विनी जी आप इसको हमारा एक्सपोर्ट पे जो बैन लगवाया वो तो हटवा दो ताकि हम एक्सपोर्ट कर सकें. लाइक ventilators, government people were saying that we are not producing ventilators. So Kiran Majumdar Shah, you know Kiran Majumdar Shah,
Yes.
she's a very famous industrialist and working in this field only, in medical equipments. She tweeted, "What are you talking? There is a gentleman running a company, Scanray, in Mysore. That gentleman happens to be my friend. So he is producing 5,000 ventilators in a month. Oh, then where he is selling? He is selling in Europe.
Okay.
Why is selling in Europe? Because Indian bureaucrats are not allowing those ventilators to be sold in Indian market.
Okay.
Then everybody ran to him. Oh, Alva Vishnu Prasad, please make ventilators for us. I also telephoned him. The nation requires you. You are producing 5,000 ventilators. Okay, you start producing 10,000 ventilators. He said, Ashwini ji, I can make 1 lakh ventilators in a month.
Oh.
You allow me.
Oh, that's a huge number.
So I asked him how. He said, I don't have the capacity to produce. I'll give my design to other companies. He gave his design to Mahindra. This is on record. If you Google, you will find. He gave his design to Mahindra. He gave his design to BEL. He gave his design to other people. और इतना 60,000 ventilators, 60,000 ventilators are ready. 50,000 we have already sent to states. So this is what the Atmanirbhar Bharat is.
Okay.
Whenever the opportunity comes, we will rise to the occasion and we can become Atmanirbhar. There is no reason, even if there is a difference in the cost between ours and Chinese, it is hardly 5-10%. Those who say don't be protectionist, we are not becoming protectionist. Protectionism was of Nehru when 700% tariffs were being imposed. If we are increasing tariffs from 10% to 20%, it is no protectionism. This is simply to give a smoothen the process of our industrialization. This is I want to say. Thank you.
This was a very insightful and very informative information, sir, you just shared with us. And I think all the listeners are very much up to date now that what are the details of it, why it happened, what it happened, and what was the basic idea behind reintroducing the self-reliance in India. Sir, there are some questions from our viewers. If you'll allow me, I'll.
Yeah, please. Most welcome.
So, over here from the viewers, the first question is, sir, it is often argued that governments make poor economic managers. They are motivated by political pressures rather than sound economic and business sense. For example, a state enterprise may employ surplus workers, which is inefficient. The government may be reluctant to get rid of the workers because of the negative publicity involved in job losses. Therefore, state-owned enterprises often employ too many workers, increasing efficiency. This is not what privatization would promote. How do you look at this side of the story?
I've just told you. In fact, what I have said in the very beginning, when I say I am against Nehru, I am against Manmohan Singh.
Okay.
See, two, two, two opposite,
Hmm.
because uh, public sector will never do good if you give importance to only public sector. And what we did in all these years,
Hmm.
from 1950-51 to 1980, even during the Indira Gandhi's regime, everything was nationalized.
Yes.
भाई टेक्सटाइल फैक्ट्री बंद हो रही है, उसको भी नेशनलाइज कर लो, जो एनटीसी बनाया था, नेशनल टेक्सटाइल
Hmm. Hmm.
कॉर्पोरेशन।
Hmm.
होटल बंद हो रहे हैं, होटल भी खरीद लो। ये
Hmm.
काम सरकार का नहीं है। और
Hmm.
जब सरकार करेगी तो ऑब्वियसली मंत्री का भतीजा है वो, उसने उसने चार लोग भेज
Yes.
दिए, वो तो एम्प्लॉय करेंगे।
Hmm.
इसलिए प्रोफेशनल मैनेजमेंट इज वेरी मच एसेंशियल। आई टेल यू, very interesting, many people might not be knowing that, ITC is also public sector. People will bounce at me कि अरे how can you call it public sector, because 32% shares of ITC are owned by government of India,
Okay.
and present and 30% shares are owned by a foreign company called BAT,
Okay.
British Tobacco Company थी।
Oh.
तो 30% शेयर उनके पास है, 32% हमारे पास है, तो हमारी मैनेजमेंट है।
हाँ.
और ITC is running so efficiently, it is number one FMCG company today, no overstocking। मैं भी अगर कहूंगा कि भी मेरा कोई भतीजा है वो रख लो, तो कोई नहीं रखने वाला।
Okay.
अगर प्राइम मिनिस्टर ऑफ इंडिया भी कहेंगे ना कि रख लो, तो नहीं
हाँ.
रखने वाले वो,
Okay.
because they are running their this thing efficiently. Therefore, ownership of the organization doesn't make it good or bad.
Hmm.
It is the way you run it. And all these professional public sector enterprises, like जितनी भी आपकी तेल कंपनियां हैं, oil companies, they're running efficiently.
Yes.
I'm not against selling them. To sell them,
Hmm.
you make corporation, put them in the stock market, sell them. एंड ऑब्वियसली जितनी जितनी शेयर होल्डिंग होएगी, जितने लोगों के पास वो पैसा, वो शेयर होंगे, उनका इंटरेस्ट होगा और वो अच्छी तरह से चलेंगी। कॉर्पोरेट जिसको गवर्नेंस कहते हैं, उसके आधार पर चीजें चलेंगी, देन एवरीथिंग विल बी ओके। सो पब्लिक सेक्टर is not a good thing. I'm not saying that public sector is a good thing, but selling the public sector in this way to strategic partners, that is bad, because you will not fetch the good price.
Good price. Just one more question, sir. We have very less time. Goal of a self-reliant India is about returning to Nehruvian import substitution or autocratic isolation. So, what is your take on that?
In the last 1 minute of my lecture, I had devoted to that only.
Yes.
Because Nehru was actually protectionist.
Yes.
Nehruvian era was a protectionist era. They were imposing 100%, 200%, 300%, 700% tariffs.
Yes.
That is actually protectionism, because you don't allow others to come in. When this time Prime Minister is saying that we are going to be Atmanirbhar, he has never used the term protectionism.
Protectionist. Yes.
He has never used. And if we raise, in the past also, we have raised tariffs from 10% to 20% in many cases, and that has produced results. आपको मालूम है कि 10% इंक्रीज किया था मोबाइल फोन्स और इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स में in February 2018. In just 1 year, import bill of electronics from China decreased from $28 billion to $20 billion in 1 year.
Okay.
And in the next 1 year, again $1.5 billion lesser. Now, $28 billion का अभी जो 1920 का लेटेस्ट डाटा आया है, उसमें $18.5 billion का इंपोर्ट रह गया. Okay. So that means hardly 10% increase. So we are living in a WTO regime. In WTO, we are bound by WTO rules, and WTO allows us to raise tariffs from up to 40% average. So अभी हमारे पास बहुत स्कोप है.
Yes.
And we cannot be called protectionist.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir. Uh, okay. I think time is over for us. So I would like to conclude with a thank you note. Sir, first of all, thank you so much for your time, for your presence over here. It was a very informative, very insightful session for us, and especially for our listeners. Um, I can actually see the live feed on Facebook, and students and listeners, they are constantly commenting over there that it's a very knowledgeable session. They have learned a lot from your sir share. So I would like to take this moment and thank, first of all, the Dean of Faculty of Arts, Parul Institute of Arts, Professor Dr. Ananya Mehta, for giving me this opportunity to, sir, welcome you here and have your presence. Second, I would like to thank the DG cell of Parul University. I would also like to extend my thankful note to event cells, Brijesh sir, for being here, for constantly being with us to help us in conduction of such webinars, and to finally to help us connect with our students and use this new methodology of imparting knowledge with them, and Jiten sir for helping us and assisting us with this webinar process. So thank you so much, sir. Once again,
One
thank
minute,
you. Yes, sir.
and thank you, Ami, for your pleasing presence, and it was really, encouraging. And I would like to thank Achalendra ji also, who introduced me to your university, and it was a very good experience and a
Thank you
pleasing
so
experience.
much.
Thank you,
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
thank you, Ami.